Hey everyone, and welcome back.
For this deep dive, we're going to be doing something a little bit different.
Oh,
We're going to be talking about time management.
okay.
But the interesting thing is that we're going to be doing it from the perspective of someone who wrote over a century ago.
Wow, over a century ago.
Yeah, we found this really interesting book on freeebooks.com
Okay.
called How to Live on 24 Hours a Day.
And it's by Arnold Bennett.
Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't. I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, it's super interesting because even though it was written in 1908,
What?
it's still incredibly relevant today. And what I thought was so interesting.
So he doesn't just give you like tips and tricks for time management,
Okay.
like make a to-do list or, what all the usual stuff is. He really digs deeper.
Into how we actually perceive and value time.
I like that.
Yeah. That's good too.
It's not just about managing time. It's about
Yeah.
how do we relate to time in the first place?
Absolutely. And that's what's so striking about Bennett. He really challenges us to think differently about time as this precious resource.
Yeah.
Almost like it's even more valuable than money.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Because I think a lot of times, especially in our culture today, money is seen as like the ultimate measure of success.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But maybe time is even more fundamental.
Oh, absolutely. Because think about it. Everybody gets the same 24 hours.
Right.
Regardless of your wealth or your status. It's like the great equalizer.
Yeah. So it's not about how much money you make, but how you choose to spend those 24 hours.
Precisely.
And this leads to Bennett's really fascinating distinction between existing and living.
Ooh. Okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So he says that, just going through the motions, just letting the hours slip away without intention.
Yeah.
That's merely existing.
Truly living, though, is about actively engaging with each hour.
And making conscious choices about how we spend our time.
So it's not just quantity, it's quality, right?
Like, I could be super busy all day long,
Right.
But if I'm not really present and engaged in what I'm doing,
Right.
I'm just existing.
Exactly.
And to kind of illustrate this point, Bennett uses this really powerful analogy in the book.
Okay, that's me.
He compares life to this vast estate
Okay.
and our time to the income that estate generates.
Okay, I'm listening.
And he says that most people are content to kind of live off the meager interest, that their time generates, they're just barely scraping by.
Yeah.
But truly successful individuals, those who truly live, they invest their time wisely.
Okay.
They cultivate their estate.
And they reap far greater rewards as a result.
Wow. That's such a vivid image. Like, we're not just passively receiving time.
Right.
We have the power to invest it and grow its value.
Absolutely. And that's where Bennett's emphasis on planning and intentionality comes in.
Okay.
He argues that we should not just plan our work, but we should also plan our leisure time.
Wait a minute. Planned leisure.
Isn't that an oxymoron?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't the whole point of leisure to just be spontaneous and carefree and just do whatever you feel like?
That's a really common misconception. And in his time, Bennett was actually quite radical for advocating this idea. He believed that by scheduling dedicated time for those activities that we genuinely enjoy, just like we schedule work meetings or doctor's appointments,
Yeah.
we actually ensure that those activities happen.
And that we fully engage with them.
Yeah, because otherwise it's so easy to just let leisure time kind of slip away
Oh, absolutely.
or to just default to passive activities like just scrolling through social media or something.
Exactly.
So he's saying that even our downtime should have a purpose.
Conscious intention behind it.
Yeah.
This is really making me rethink my approach to free time.
So tell me more about this so-called planned leisure.
Well, one of his most famous recommendations is this idea of the nightly 90 minutes.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued.
What are these magical 90 minutes all about?
Well, he suggests that you set aside an hour and a half each evening.
For focused self-improvement.
Wait a minute, so we're talking about like work after work?
Evenings are supposed to be for relaxing?
Mm-hmm.
What exactly did he have in mind?
Well, not work in like the traditional sense.
It's more like an investment in yourself.
Okay.
It's dedicated time for activities that enrich your mind or your spirit.
Like reading or learning a new language or practicing an instrument.
Or writing anything that truly nourishes you.
So it's not about adding more tasks to our to-do list.
But about carving out space for personal growth.
Precisely.
Okay.
And Bennett argued that, by scheduling this time, just like any other important appointment in your day,
Yeah.
we're actually making a conscious commitment to our own development. We wouldn't just skip a doctor's appointment just because we were tired, right?
Right.
Same principle applies here.
I'm starting to see the value in this.
But I gotta admit, finding 90 minutes every single night feels like a tall order.
Like, life is already so busy. So how did Bennett suggest people actually make this happen?
Yeah, he acknowledged that it does require a shift in mindset.
It's about recognizing that time is finite.
We can't do everything, and we need to be intentional about how we spend it.
And that sometimes means saying no to things that are less important.
So it's about prioritizing.
Choosing to invest in ourselves instead of, mindlessly scrolling through social media or watching another episode of that show we've already seen a dozen times.
Exactly.
Bennett wasn't anti-fun.
He loved theater and art, and he believed that leisure was essential for a well-lived life.
But he stressed that we should be deliberate about how we spend that free time.
Choosing those activities that truly rejuvenate us and contribute to our growth.
This is really resonating with me.
I'm definitely guilty of letting evenings slip away in a blur of kind of mindless activities.
I think I might try this nightly 90 minutes experiment.
I encourage you to.
And to make the most of that time, Bennett offered some really interesting strategies for staying focused.
He was writing long before smartphones and the internet, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But his advice on concentration is even more relevant today.
That's so true.
We're constantly bombarded with distractions these days. It feels like our attention is being pulled in a million directions at once.
And Bennett argued that the key to effective concentration is focusing on one task at a time and avoiding multitasking.
Okay.
He even suggested creating a dedicated space, like a temple of the mind, he called it.
Oh, I like that.
Where you can work without distraction.
Creating a sacred space for focused work.
Exactly.
And of course, this applies not just to, traditional work, but also to those nightly 90 minutes of self-improvement.
Whether you're reading or learning a new skill or working on a creative project.
Dedicate yourself fully to that activity.
Okay.
Put your phone away, turn off notifications, and really immerse yourself in the present moment.
It's about being present, not just physically, but mentally as well.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to it. Another interesting suggestion from Bennett, the importance of morning reflection. He believed that starting the day with intention was crucial for making the most of those 24 hours.
So in addition to the nightly 90 minutes, we're adding a morning routine. What exactly did he have in mind?
Well, it doesn't need to be a long or complicated routine. Even just a few minutes each morning can make a difference.
Okay.
He suggested taking some time to kind of review the day ahead.
Anticipate potential challenges.
And mentally prepare for those tasks that you want to accomplish.
It's like setting an intention for the day, consciously choosing how we want to approach it, instead of just reacting to whatever comes our way.
Precisely.
And by taking, just a few moments to plan and prioritize.
We're less likely to get kind of swept away by that urgency of the day's demands.
Or to fall into that trap of procrastination.
So it's like a preemptive strike against distraction and overwhelm.
I love it. Okay, so we've got the nightly 90 minutes and morning reflection. Any other nuggets of wisdom from Bennett that we should know about?
Well, he emphasized that it's not about drastically overhauling our lives overnight. He understood that change can be challenging.
And he encouraged people to make small incremental adjustments.
That over time would lead to those significant improvements.
So reassuring.
It's not about aiming for perfection, but about making progress.
Exactly.
Starting small and building momentum.
Exactly.
And this applies to all those aspects of time management that we've been discussing, from planning our leisure time to cultivating focus to creating those nightly 90 minutes.
Pick one small change that resonates with you and commit to implementing it this week.
Maybe it's turning off notifications for an hour each evening.
Or dedicating 15 minutes to a hobby that you've been neglecting.
The key is to start somewhere.
The key is to start somewhere.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into how to live on 24 hours a day.
It's incredible how relevant his ideas are, even though they were written over a century ago.
It's a testament to those enduring power of these timeless principles.
The tools and technology might change,
but those fundamental challenges of time management remain the same.
Before we move on, I just want to say that I'm already feeling inspired
to make some changes in my own life.
I think Bennett's ideas have given me a whole new perspective on how to approach my time and make the most of those 24 hours.
It's funny, we started this deep dive talking about freebooks.com.
But I think Bennett himself would have appreciated the irony here.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, here we are in the digital age.
Right.
With this incredible library at our fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to sites like freebooks.com.
Yeah.
And yet, one of his biggest points is about focusing.
About shutting out distractions to truly engage with what we're doing.
Whether it's reading or anything else.
That is interesting. Yeah, it's a fascinating paradox.
It really is.
We have more access to information and entertainment than ever before.
But it's also easier than ever to get lost in the noise.
Exactly. So how do we reconcile this abundance of options?
With Bennett's call for focused attention
It almost feels like we need to be even more disciplined today.
than they did back then.
Well, I think Bennett would argue that the principles remain the same, even if the distractions have changed.
He stressed the importance of consciously choosing how we spend our time,
Right.
not letting it be dictated by, external forces,
This is about taking control.
being the driver of our own lives, instead of just passively reacting to whatever pops up on our screens.
Exactly. And this ties back to his emphasis on planned leisure.
Yeah.
In a world of constant stimulation, it's so easy to just fall into that trap. Just scrolling and clicking and letting our time slip away.
Without any real intention behind it,
But Bennett's suggesting we should be as intentional about our relaxation.
as we are about our work.
Precisely. And that's where those e-readers you mentioned earlier can actually be quite helpful.
Oh, okay. How so?
Well, imagine, setting aside 30 minutes each evening to curl up with a good book on your Kindle or your Nook.
It's a way to create a deliberate boundary between the digital world and a space for focused relaxation.
It's like creating a little ritual for ourselves.
A time to unplug and recharge. I love that.
And it doesn't have to be just reading, right?
Right. It could be listening to music or spending time in nature.
Working on a creative project, anything that truly nourishes you
Yeah.
and helps you disconnect from that digital noise.
So to bring it all back to Bennett's core message,
We all have the same 24 hours,
We do.
and it's up to us to choose how we want to live them,
It's about recognizing that time is our most valuable asset
even more so than money.
and that we have the power to invest it wisely
It's about making conscious choices, being present in each moment.
and creating a life that's both productive and fulfilling.
Absolutely. And it's about remembering that small changes, implemented consistently over time, can lead to some really remarkable transformations.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a challenge.
Okay.
What's one small change you can make this week, inspired by Bennett's ideas to live more fully in your 24 hours?
Maybe it's dedicating 30 minutes each evening to an activity that you truly enjoy.
Scheduling it in your calendar just like a work meeting,
Or maybe it's taking 5 minutes each morning to reflect.
and set an intention for the day ahead.
Whatever it is, make it a conscious choice. A deliberate step towards creating a life that aligns with your values and your priorities.
And remember, freeebooks.com is a fantastic resource for exploring new ideas.
And continuing your journey of personal growth, there's a whole world of knowledge out there waiting to be discovered, all for free.
So go out there, make the most of your time, and until next time, keep driving deep.